At my sister Bella's lavish wedding, I handed her the deed to a luxury condo worth $420,000, fully paid for. I thought it was the key to her freedom, and honestly, a way out for me too. But Bella picked up the paper like it was a dirty napkin, scanned the address, and let out a sharp, screeching laugh that cut right through the soft music playing from the expensive speakers. "This isn't the area I wanted!" Bella yelled into the microphone, her voice echoing through the fancy hall. "I'm not living in that cheap neighborhood, are you kidding me?" Nearly 200 guests turned around at once. All eyes were on me, waiting for the meltdown. They were waiting for Morgan, the strong sister, to get awkward, apologize, or maybe cry out of embarrassment. But I didn't. Not a single tear. I didn't even blink. Inside my chest, where I should have felt hurt, I suddenly heard a click. Cold. Clean. A switch had been flipped. I looked at Bella, then at Eleanor, my mother, standing nearby with a stiff, calculating smile. And then I smiled back. It wasn't a forgiving smile. It was the smile of a medical examiner who just found the cause of death. In that moment, I realized Bella had no idea what she had just started. She thought this was her stage, where she was the queen and I was just the servant. But she was wrong. She just signed the death warrant for her luxury lifestyle. And me? I was the executioner. My name is Morgan. I'm 38. I'm a lawyer specializing in brutal mergers and acquisitions in New York, where a misplaced comma in a contract can cost a corporation millions. Outsiders look at me and see crisp designer suits, an office on the 50th floor looking down on Manhattan, and a life of absolute control. But they don't see the 100-hour work weeks, the cold coffees left on the desk, and the exhaustion eating away at my soul as I walk home alone in the dark. I was raised to endure that pressure. Eleanor, my mother, didn't raise children. She cast roles for a play she never intended to end. At every Thanksgiving dinner, she would introduce us with a sweet but controlling tone. Morgan is the strong one, the pillar of the family. And immediately after, her eyes would soften when looking at my sister. And Bella, she's the artist. Her soul is sensitive and creative. Those labels weren't harmless. They were life sentences. Strong meant I was never allowed to need help. Strong meant I was the payer, the fixer, the one who always had to say yes. Conversely, creative was Bella's get-out-of-jail-free card. She was allowed to fail, allowed to be weak, and allowed to be a parasite. My father, a spineless man, existed like a dusty piece of furniture in his own house. He loved us, but he feared conflict with Eleanor more than he feared the injustice happening right in front of him. While I drained my energy in skyscrapers, Bella lived in a world of heavily edited Instagram photos, oat milk lattes, and pipe dreams. She called herself an influencer. But the only thing she actually influenced was my bank account. I didn't realize I wasn't her sister. I was her early retirement plan and the bottomless insurance fund for her vanity. For a decade, I lived like an ATM that never ran out of cash for Bella's delusions. Every time she was late on rent, $3,500 a month for a studio apartment right in the center of the trendy arts district, I was the one quietly transferring the money. Eleanor called it investing in the future, while I called it the tax I had to pay for peace and quiet. When Bella cried that she couldn't build a luxury and sustainable personal brand driving an old sedan, I co-signed for the newest electric SUV. A shiny, expensive car she definitely couldn't afford. But Eleanor gave me that sharp look, the one that said, "Don't ruin your sister's dream." That wasn't all. Spiritual retreats in Sedona, therapy sessions with top experts, branding photography packages costing tens of thousands of dollars. I paid for it all before Bella could even ask a second time. I lied to myself that this was just a temporary phase, that she just needed a push to stand on her own. But the truth was much crueler. I had been programmed since childhood to believe that my only value lay in my ability to provide financially. That being the strong one meant never being allowed to put the burden down, even if my spine was snapping under the pressure. My father kept his despicable silence. He loved us in the way a coward does. If Eleanor said Bella needed money, he never asked where it came from. He assumed that Morgan, the brilliant lawyer, the family cash cow, would handle it. While Bella lived in a world of soft lighting and lazy mornings, I buried my youth in dry contracts. I didn't realize I was building a monster with my own hands until her cruel laughter rang out at the wedding. Bella's wedding didn't feel warm. It felt like a cold movie set staged for perfect photos. Candles floating on water, towering floral arches dwarfing the groom, and a guest list arranged by social media influence rather than blood relations. I walked toward Bella with the folder clutched in my hand, deluding myself that this was a final gesture of reconciliation, a fresh start, a gift big enough to prove I wasn't just the strong one, but her sister. Bella stood near the head table, glowing in white lace, her phone tilted at the perfect angle to check her reflection. When she saw me, her smile stretched out of habit for the camera. "Oh my God, Morgan, is this a speech? Tell me it's short," she whispered, half joking. "It's a gift," I said, my voice hoarse. "Something important." The DJ lowered the music like it was part of the script. Guests turned around, waiting for a sweet moment. I placed the deed in her hand. At first, Bella didn't understand. Then she saw the address, the numbers, and the words, "paid in full." Her eyes went wide, not with gratitude, but with calculation. And then she laughed. Not a shy giggle, but a sharp cackle designed to carry. "This isn't the location I want." Her voice boomed through the mic clipped to her dress, amplifying the humiliation to every corner of the room. "I'm not living in that cheap neighborhood." A wave of awkward giggles rippled through the crowd. Some laughed thinking it was a joke. Others laughed because they didn't know what to do. My throat tightened. Eleanor glided over to Bella like a professional actress. "Oh, honey," she cooed, smoothing Bella's hair. "Morgan means well. Your sister is just a little too practical." Practical. That word hit harder than the laughter. Bella shrugged, still smiling for the camera. "It's fine, Mom. She probably just didn't think about my brand. That's not her world." Eleanor nodded sympathetically, as if I wasn't standing 3 feet away. In that moment, the weight of decades of paying, rescuing, and swallowing disappointment crushed my chest. And then, something inside me shifted. Clean break. Silence. I looked at my sister, my mother, and the sea of people waiting for me to crumble. Instead, I smiled. Not the smile they expected, but the smile of someone who just realized she has nothing left to lose. Before we get to the moment I flip the script, let's pause for a second. Have you ever sacrificed everything for someone only to be trampled on the moment you gave the biggest gift of all? If you've ever been used by family, comment "I have" below. I want to know I'm not alone in this fight. I wove through the tables, pretending to admire the flowers while trying to steady my breathing. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness. It was the vibration of adrenaline, that cold high you get when you realize the balance of power just shifted. I was halfway to the door when the sound of heels slamming on marble chased after me. "Morgan!" Bella hissed through her teeth. I turned around. She stood next to a champagne tower, her veil askew, eyes burning with rage. "What the hell did you just do? You tried to embarrass me, didn't you?" "It was a gift," I replied, my voice as flat as a judge delivering a verdict. "A gift?" She let out a dry laugh, a choked sound. "In that slum? Have you seen the lighting in those apartments? It will ruin my image on social media. And you gave it right in front of everyone. Why would you sabotage me like that?" Sabotage. That's the word she used. Before I could answer, Eleanor glided over, pearls glistening, voice soft, but full of venom. "Girls, please don't make a scene tonight," she whispered, then turned to me, gripping my arm tight. "Morgan, you know how sensitive your sister is. Don't be selfish just because your feelings are hurt." Selfish because I was hurt. That sentence was the knife that cut the final chain binding me to this family for 38 years. Not because I was publicly humiliated, but because I dared to have feelings about it. I brushed her hand off me, slowly, decisively. "I'm leaving," I said, looking straight into her eyes. "And I'm done with you all." I didn't wait for a reaction. I walked straight through the large glass doors into the night. At the valet stand, I stopped. A thought flashed, sharp and cruel. The car. The new electric SUV under my name for the loan. The car Bella drove everywhere as a symbol of her fake success. I raised my hand. The valet ran over. "Bring the white electric SUV," I ordered, voice like ice. "The one registered under my name, not the bride's." He blinked, confused, but nodded. For the first time tonight, the corner of my mouth actually curled up. Not a polite smile, but the smile of a predator that just decided to stop running. When I got back to my apartment, the darkness felt thicker than usual. I kicked my heels aside, walked into the kitchen, and froze. A cream-colored envelope lay right under the door slot, my name scrawled on it in messy, hurried handwriting. I tore open the seal. Inside was a stack of documents and a brief note from Caleb, the groom. "Morgan, I found these in a shared folder on Bella's computer this morning. I didn't know what else to do but give them to you. You don't deserve to be treated like this." I spread the papers out on the cold marble counter. It wasn't a diary or a letter. It was a detailed financial plan, chillingly cold, with a bolded title, "Future Support Plan from Morgan." The bullet points danced before my eyes like knives, a detailed roadmap on how to drain my assets over the next 10 years. Item 1, 20% down payment for a villa in the suburbs, after selling the condo I just gifted. Item 2, luxury car upgrades every 3 years to maintain image. Item 3, and this was the one that made my stomach churn, a red circled item, private school fund for the kids, expected birth years 2026 and 2028. Bella wasn't even pregnant. But my mother, Eleanor, had already budgeted my wallet for children that didn't even exist. Notes in the margins in her neat handwriting read, "Morgan won't refuse if we use anti-love to pressure her." I wasn't just the strong one. I was an investment project, a business plan, a cash cow being fattened up to be milked until death. The humiliation at the wedding was just a slap, but this folder was a stab through the heart, calculated, systematic, and completely devoid of humanity. I stood there for a long time, hands pressed against the cold table, chest heaving like I'd just run a marathon. The pain vanished. The tears dried up. For the first time in my life, my mind was terrifyingly clear. I had no emotions left. I had become a crisis management machine, just like how I handled billion-dollar deals. 7 o'clock the next morning, I brewed a black coffee, bitter and thick. I sat down at my desk, not as a sister, but as an asset liquidation expert starting bankruptcy proceedings for a failing business. A business named Family. I started dismantling every brick in the financial structure I had stupidly built over the last decade. Step 1. I opened my banking app, found the recurring transfer for Bella's rent, $3,500 on the first of every month, and hit cancel. A small box popped up. "Are you sure?" For the first time in my life, the answer was an absolute yes. Step 2. I contacted the insurance company, demanding Bella be removed from the list of insured drivers. Next, I emailed the car dealership, initiating the process to resell the electric SUV she proudly showed off as hers. Bella hadn't paid a dime for that car, not 1 cent. Step 3. I changed all shared passwords. Netflix, Amazon Prime, utility accounts, club memberships, the little things she had quietly logged into for years. Step 4. I forwarded that disgusting future support plan to my personal attorney with a request to draft a debt repayment agreement. A cold legal document listing the total amount Bella had borrowed, as I was now redefining it, and demanding payment. The moment I hit send, my phone started buzzing violently on the wooden desk. Once, twice, then continuously like a seizure. First Bella, then Eleanor, then relatives I hadn't seen in a year. Did you cancel the rent? How could you do this right before the honeymoon? Mom is having a heart attack, call back now. Every message reeked of panic and entitlement. I didn't answer anyone. Instead, I sent a single message to the family group chat. A close-up photo of the plan with Eleanor's neat handwriting and Bella's excited notes in the margins. Then I flipped my phone face down. Silence filled the room, heavy and final like a judge's gavel. At exactly noon, the landline in my office rang. Not my personal cell, but the internal line reserved for senior partners or life-or-death emergencies. I watched the red light blink, let it ring twice, then picked up. Morgan, I answered, brief. What the hell did you do? Eleanor's voice rang out sharp and trembling, tearing through the quiet of the glass office. Good morning, Mom, I replied, my voice light as air. Don't you use that tone with me, she screamed. Your sister is having a complete breakdown. Caleb's family is calling and asking questions. Do you understand the mess you just caused? The mess I caused? I repeated, swiveling my chair to look at the gray New York skyline. Interesting choice of words. You made that private plan public, she hissed. You embarrassed the whole family. I didn't write the plan, I said, cutting her off coldly. And shame only hurts when it's undeserved. But this? You all deserve it. There was a silence on the other end. I could hear her ragged breathing. Tactics changed. Anger shifted to pleading. Eleanor's favorite weapon when violence didn't work. You can't abandon the family. Her voice softened, trembling theatrically. You're the strong one. Bella always needed more support. You know that. She's sensitive. Sensitive? I whispered. And I'm not, right? That's exactly why you built this entire blood-sucking system on my back. Her composure cracked. You can't do this, Morgan. We raised you. No, I interrupted, sharp as a scalpel. You didn't raise a child. You raised a resource. You raised someone who never knew how to say no. But guess what? I'm saying it now. She took a deep breath, as if the ground beneath her had just collapsed. If you walk away now, she said, voice thick with threat, you will lose this family forever. I weighed those words. Before, they would have killed me. But now, they sounded like liberation. I'm not walking away, Mom. I'm just stepping out of a role I never agreed to play. Late that afternoon, I drove to the luxury hotel where Bella and Caleb were staying before flying off for their honeymoon, a trip I knew for a fact she could no longer afford. Eleanor had definitely warned her I was coming, because the moment my car pulled up, Bella rushed out of the revolving doors of the main lobby. Mascara smeared around her eyes, hair in a messy bun. She no longer had the arrogance of yesterday's bride, only the panic of a child stripped of her favorite toy. You can't take the car, she screamed, voice cracking from crying. I need it. My followers are waiting for content about the trip. Don't you get it? It's my image. I stepped out of the car, holding my hand out in front of her. Cold. Patient. Keys. You're so cruel, she sobbed, tears streaming down her patchy makeup. You're ruining my honeymoon. No, I said, voice low and steady. I'm done. Behind her, Caleb walked out. He looked exhausted, eyes sunken from lack of sleep and probably regret. He looked at me, not with hostility, but with resignation. I tried to tell her, he whispered, his voice dissolving into the afternoon wind. I nodded slightly at Caleb. Take care of yourself, Caleb. Bella dug through her designer bag with shaking hands, then slammed the keys into my palm. She stumbled back a few steps, as if the action had drained her last bit of strength. Guests in the hotel lobby looked out, whispering, pointing. Some pretended to look away. I didn't care. I walked past all of them, keys dangling on my finger, the afternoon sun reflecting off the cold metal. This feeling didn't feel like revenge. It felt like balance. For the first time in years, the scales of justice had tipped to the right side. As the elevator doors closed behind me, separating me from Bella's wailing, I realized something important. This wasn't the end of my family. It was the beginning of the family I chose for myself. A week later, the penthouse condo worth $420,000 that I intended to give away found a new purpose. A senior colleague told me about his daughter and her partner, two residents exhausted from night shifts, desperate for a safe place near the hospital. I rented it to them at a price far below market value. The gratitude in their eyes was unlike anything I had ever received from my family. It was clean. It was sincere. It was appreciation between real working people, not the demand of parasites. The white electric SUV sat quietly in my garage, scrubbed clean of the cheap perfume smell and Bella's frivolous traces. On a Sunday morning, I drove it along the Hudson River, rolling the windows down to let the cold wind wash away the last remnants of exploitation. No panic calls, no emergency bills. Only the sound of tires on asphalt and precious silence. Back home, I stepped out onto the balcony with a hot cup of coffee. For the first time in years, the coffee was still hot when I drank it. The city spread out below, sparkling and distant. I was no longer the strong one or the responsible one. I was just a woman who finally dared to put the burden down. This silence wasn't empty. It was freedom. I learned the most expensive lesson. No is a complete sentence, and boundaries aren't cruelty. They are survival. Walking out of a role I never agreed to play didn't break my family. It only exposed the naked truth about it. If you've ever felt like just a tool in the eyes of your relatives, remember that you are not alone. Never apologize for choosing your own peace. Hit that subscribe button right now to join me through stories that expose the truth and find justice for ourselves. See you in the next video.